We're going to resume Board of Selectmen's meeting for August 29, 2016. We'll continue with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please, everyone stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First on the agenda is approval of the minutes from August 15th, 2016. We'll get a chance to review them, and do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the Board of Selectmen approve the minutes, the open session minutes of August 15, 2016 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we will approve, or at least review, communications announcement. We'll review the meeting schedule for the remainder of 2016. Did everyone get a chance to look at those? Any concerns or questions or comments?
Sorry to be a wrench in it.
Okay, well, now's the time to do it, if you have to throw a wrench in it.
Selectman Watson was only 50% of the rent, so we've realigned the dates as best we can to accommodate the conflict that Selectman Watson has, I believe, at the October meeting. Right. Correct, but one of them still has a conflict.
So we have one meeting scheduled in October right now, on October
We were able to
17th.
work around that, but this meeting still remains a conflict, right? So the December 19th meeting still remains a conflict. We'll just, as we get closer, the board can figure out if that.
Yeah, or switch the day on.
Okay, so December 19th is the only one, so,
If this-
The 17th is a conflict too.
I thought we changed the meeting to a conflict.
So are we saying
That's good.
October 17th?
okay, so
October 17th is
the town's calling me, everybody's here, be calling me from the town.
So what did we do?
Tracy, I knew you wouldn't want to meet on Halloween.
I'm getting my call. We're all getting calls from the town.
Yeah, we're all here, who could be calling?
We're all here.
It's a robocall.
We're spraying for mosquitoes if anybody's good communication.
So let me understand, so October 17th right now, we have on the agenda, we have it on the schedule for a meeting for October 17th. Are we saying that's not, that's a conflict right
That's
now?
also a conflict. So
Okay.
we're looking at doing it on
Tuesday.
Tuesday, 11th of October. Can't do the Monday.
Monday's a holiday? It is a holiday. Tuesday, October 11th, okay.
Sorry.
We're far enough out that we can certainly do that. Does anybody have any conflicts with that?
I don't know, I have to ask my husband, it's our anniversary, but
Oh.
it'll be all right.
No.
We'll celebrate on the weekend.
And then just as we get closer to the 19th, because those dates get to be a little complicated between setting the tax classification
Yeah.
and the renewals on the liquor. So as we get a little closer to that, either Tracy's voice may change or we'll get a little more specific about some alternatives. But right now.
Right, like if we go to the 20th, now we're encroaching on that big day. So we need to think about either the week before or maybe the, someday on the week before.
We'll come back sort of mid to late November as the schedule clarifies a little bit and ask your thoughts on how to manage through the 19th.
Okay. So right now, we're changing the 17th to the 11th.
Yes.
We know we have a conflict on the 19th. We'll deal with that as we get closer, when we start in this beginning of December, late November.
Correct, December 19th. yeah.
Okay. We don't need to vote for this, right? This is just info. Okay. That's good, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other communications or announcements?
I did, Mr. Chairman, receive an email today from an individual, a North Andover resident, who is working, she's a spouse of a state trooper, who's working on a statewide program to place blue ribbons on poles and trees throughout the community. I've given a preliminary approval to do that for a 30-day period. I've asked her not to do anything around the town common of the Rotary. I would also suggest that she comes back to this meeting at your next meeting, sort of after the fact fills you in terms of her experience and any other goals or interests she may have in terms of looking at the program. But I think it's seems really appropriate to proceed at this point, since she wants to do it on September 3rd. That's when a number of other communities are doing it.
Okay.
And again, I'm going to ask her to come to the next meeting to give you an update.
So is she looking to do this on private residences or other town properties?
Yeah, I think it would be, if she went on private residence, obviously people would ask the resident if they had an interest to do it.
Yeah.
It would not be arbitrarily done on private residence. I think there'll be some public assets that would have ribbons on them. But again, we would ask her to avoid the common and rotary areas because those become a little more complicated to deal with, obviously.
She might want to also consider avoiding Patriots Park. It's supposed to be a quiet enjoyment, even though it's Patriots Park, it's almost...
Sure, I'll make sure that she's aware. Any other limitations or restrictions?
She does to the Andover too?
She's not doing Andover, no. She's
But
a
she
North
comes to
Andover
the
resident.
Oh, she's not
She's a
there?
North Andover resident.
Oh, okay. That's all right then. No, it's not-
Stand down, stand down. Okay, any other communications, announcements? Anybody have anything else?
School starts next Tuesday, so drive slowly and carefully.
It's a good one, thank you.
So
Anything
wanna
else?
leave you hanging.
Yeah, well, I know. All right, so hearing none, we'll move on to consent items. First one is a vote to approve a disbursement of $115,000 from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to Bread and Roses Housing for a purchase of 70 Main Street.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay.
Chairman Madeline Cole.
Thank you.
The only thing is I wanted to ask you a question. So can I ask Gloria?
Yes.
Is this the one next to the one we bought?
Yeah.
That was my question.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yesenia from Bread and Roses was right here. Oh, is she here?
She's walking in the door.
Okay.
Okay, you want to give her a minute?
Yeah.
Just,
I'm the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust.
Oh.
That's
There we
why
go.
I'm here.
okay, great. Just, based, as we're waiting for her to come in, just based on other properties that they done that was on Main Street, it was a phenomenal success. Hi, can you just give us your name and address and type? Well, not address,
Good
type.
afternoon. It's been a long day. Good afternoon, Yesenia Gill, Bread and Roses Housing.
Hi. So we just took up the item, and anything you'd like to tell us about it?
Well, we're very excited to partner with the town of North Andover once again and the Affordable Housing Trust. I think I just walked in when we were discussing the Main Street project. That was absolutely a phenomenal success. We're hoping to recreate that success. I think that when we acquired 6466 Main Street, we immediately looked to our left and thought, what an opportunity that would be. And so it has been on our radar, including the town, to really recreate that corner because it is a bit of a blight, and we have an asset, a mutual asset, right next door. So it was just a great opportunity when it finally, came on board to really acquire it and to rehab it or demolish, which we will cross that bridge with the zoning board. Yes, absolutely.
And I remember when during the ribbon cutting, that probably needed a lot of work.
Indeed, indeed. So we're happy that we're finally come to this point where we're able to acquire it and hopefully, again, just improve the neighborhood. I'm sure the neighbors would be excited about it. So we're looking at building a single-family home right in the footprint, not a duplex, which is our typical model. But so we're hoping to go in front of the zoning board and determine if it would be new construction, so really starting from a new foundation. We have architectural plans that would work perfectly on that site. And if we can't grandfather in all of the setbacks, et cetera, then we would just build on the existing foundation. But we do have both a plan and a fallback plan as well. And just to give you a little insight on the property, if the architectural plans that we're proposing are approved, it would be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, 2 stories, obviously off-street parking and yard. So we would absolutely make it very much in tune with the neighborhood. And I think that's all we have at this point.
Yeah.
If you have anything,
There's
Does
Elizabeth.
the chair of the
pictures in-
Affordable Housing Trust have anything to add?
You have a copy of the purchase and sale that was signed this morning, I think, or over the weekend.
Yes, over the weekend.
And really, this is the only contingency, and other than that, we'll be ready to close September 23rd,
Indeed.
if not sooner. And then there's pictures in your packet of the house so you can see which one we're talking about. It'd be a good thing.
Yes, we're excited.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Okay, a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Double duty.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right. Opposed? No. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I'll bring this to the
Yeah.
And then you will.
Yeah, that's scissors.
Thank you.
Selectman Watson reposition herself before I go to the next item? You
Yes,
good?
I'm good now.
Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is a request from Dan Past for a permission to hold a muscular dystrophy association, fill the boot drive on Saturday, September 24th, 2016, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Rotary. Hey, Dan.
Yep. How you guys doing this evening?
Doing good, how are you?
Good. I was just coming to ask for permission from you guys to run a Fill the Boot. Last year, we ran it at the Rotary. We raised $3,332
Really?
for the MDA in just under 4 hours, so we did very, very well for them. I was just coming to ask you guys for permission to hold another boot drive again this year.
Move that the Board of Selectmen approve the request of Dan Pass to hold a Fill the Boot drive on Saturday, September 24th, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Rotary. At the roundabout.
The roundabout,
We have a
yeah.
motion and a second.
If you went through my payback.
I believe this is the same day as the Merchants Festival?
It is.
Right,
So there's
Fall
going to be a lot of
Festival, so that's
traffic
great.
going through.
Yeah, that was the date that the MDA had given us, was this date, so.
Perfect.
Yeah,
No, that's a good
There's
thing.
going to be a lot of
Yeah.
traffic going through there.
Can
And-
they walk the festival?
Um,
Would that be allowed by them?
We can ask the MDA if you guys would like us to, we can also have someone post it up on the common as well.
Well, yeah,
You know?
maybe take it up with the Merchants Association. They run
Yeah,
the
right.
festival, so I would say take it to their
Okay.
meeting and ask them.
Yeah,
But
I wouldn't see a problem doing that,
Awesome.
as long as they'd approve and you guys do as well.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Good luck.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Raise some big bucks.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, next on the agenda is a request of Francis and Sharon Devon of 32 Boston Hill Road to amend a grant of easement. Attorney Ross,
Yes. Good evening. My name is Paul Ross. I think you have my packet in front of you. I represent Frank and Sharon Devan of 32 Boston Road. We're trying to correct an easement that was granted purportedly for a sewer easement. The sewer was constructed subsequent to the granting of the easement. There are two issues with it. One, it's defective as to area because the sewer as built does not cross through just the easement area. It crosses through part of the area of my client's property outside of the easement. So the shape of the easement as granted was incorrect. And then the second piece of it is that the easement that my client had understood that he was granting was supposed to be into sewer easement. And in reviewing the actual easement document, it's actually a public ways easement for a full road. That came to light this summer when one of the other neighbors submitted a plan, which you have copies of in the packet, showing a road widening for Boston Hill Road onto part of this easement. That was never what my client understood he was granting. And that understanding is also enumerated in the Selectmen's meeting presentation by Gene Willis. So he, as town engineer, presented you with the grant of easement document, and in his letter said it was a grant of easement for a sewer extension. And then your Board of Selectmen meeting minutes actually reflect the same thing, that you understood it was a Selectmen, it was a easement for a sewer, not necessarily for a public way. So we're asking, if you look at our packet, it's the italics section, two requests. One, to correct the defective area, to reform the shape of the easement, and two, to limit the replacement easement to just an underground sewer easement, not a public way.
Mr. Chairman, if I can add to that, I'm going back and review the documentation of the meeting Mr. Ross identified, as well as other documentations on file for the town. I support Attorney Ross's opinion on this. The intention of the board at the time was to allow for a sewer easement, to allow for a resident to connect it to the town's sewer system. Actually, ended up being 2 residents connected to the sewer system. The language within the easement goes beyond the expectation, and quite frankly, goes beyond the vote of the board. The vote of the board was for a sewer easement. Clearly, after the sewer was installed, now that we have documents that reflect the actual installation, they're not quite as-built drawings, but they're certainly close enough. It's evident that the easement on Mr. Devan's property goes beyond what the intention was. It probably would have covered about 20%. The easement granted is about 3 or 4 times larger than what was necessary. And the current easement doesn't cover a portion of Mr. Devan's property, which is necessary for the easement. Additionally, that same public ways language appears in the easement also approved back in September 10th for the adjoining parcel going down Boston Hill Road toward Boston Road. In that case, the sewer which was installed does not cross into the easement at all, meaning we didn't need to obtain an easement for that property. And I would certainly recommend that you give me the direction to communicate with that neighbor. It doesn't make sense for us to have an easement when we don't need it. And thirdly, there was another resident impacted on Boston Road as part of this discussion, who also ended up with an easement that referred to public ways as opposed to specifically sewer. And I'd like to have a conversation with them to see if it was their intention to do that. So I support the specific request, and then I'm communicating to the board my interest to further go down the road, sorry for the pun, and look into the other actions taken at the time to see if we can narrow these and perfect the process. So it seems to me at this point we would have needed an easement across Attorney Ross's client's land, but a significantly different easement. We would not have needed the easement on the property that is adjacent to that at all, and that we would have needed an easement on the property on Boston Road, but that easement could have simply been a sewer or utility easement and not a public ways easement.
Well, I would move that the Board of Selectmen void the grant of easement recorded in the Essex North Registry of Deeds in Book 12202, page 52, and record a new easement limited to the use and maintenance of the as-built sewer only, and a new plan showing the correct easement area, as well as instructing town manager or giving permission to town manager to reach out to the other 2 households.
I'll second that. I agree with you. If you don't need an easement, we shouldn't be putting easements on people's properties. It's not quite a taking, but there is.
Close.
It's close, yeah.
There's some restrictions that are applied to them. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. And that's
Okay, next on the agenda is a vote to amend Fire Chief McCarthy's contract. Mr. Manager?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, the board asked that I review Chief's contract, Fire Chief's contract, after the completion of, as we know, we approved, this board appointed Chief McCarthy back in March, followed that up a couple of months later with the appointment of Chief Gray. It makes perfectly logical sense that their employment contracts look alike. And quite frankly, there just was some differences due to timing. So working with Chief McCarthy and under the direction of the board, we've made those contracts align. So what you have before you is a contract that, if approved, which I'm supporting, would align lockstep with Chief Gray's and many of the provisions.
Okay. Great. Do I have a motion?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're good on that one. Next up, accept a donation in the amount of $300 to Veteran Services from the Lawrence Vietnam Memorial Foundation. Is there anyone here to speak to this? We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Rosemary, did you?
No, other than it's, what a nice thing for the Lawrence Vietnam Memorial Foundation to do for the town
Very
of
nice.
Andover.
Absolutely.
But you
Right.
know, they're
Good neighbors.
good neighbors, but you know, anyone who serves, no matter where they're from, they all deserve, especially the Vietnam Memorial. That's great.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda, request from the, to surplus a vehicle by Elder Services.
Mr. Chairman, we're in the process of purchasing a new Elder Services bus, and as a part of that, we'll be surplusing the older vehicle. We have 2 vehicles, surplusing the older vehicle so that can be exchanged or traded in as part of the purchase.
Move that the Board of Selectmen approve the request of Director Irene O'Brien to surplus that 2006 Ford Cut van as per her memorandum.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
We're not gonna
Unanimous.
got that. It was
2006.
a big deal.
Well, then there's the one, then we got the one after that as a function of the
David.
MVRTA, right?
Yeah.
Yep, so we'll have an updated van, which is great. Mr. Chairman, there are 2 requests before you to not accept the right of first refusal on the affordable housing units at 2202 Juniper Circle and 4 Harvest Drive, Unit 205.
Okay, so 2 affordable housing units that have been coming available. We as a town normally refuse our right of first, our right to purchase those. Do I have a motion?
Move that the Board of Selectmen decline the right of first refusal to purchase the affordable housing units at 2202 Juniper Circle and 4 Harvest Drive, Unit 205.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Must be summertime. We're getting through these things pretty quickly. Okay, vote to accept community compact grant.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, that the town of North Andover participated in the Community Compact program several months ago. As part of our initiative, we identified a regional grant to brand the Merrimack Valley or the communities in the Merrimack Valley. There's a consensus agreement from the chief executive, mayors, and managers of the region that we would benefit from sort of the name recognition that the Merrimack Valley has, if we could find a way to circulate that outside the Merrimack Valley. The town of North Andover was the primary applicant under that Community Compact initiative, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts issued the town of North Andover a grant of $25,000 to be spent as part of a branding initiative. The Merrimack Valley Planning Commission issued an RFP to select a company to do that, a marketing company. That company's been selected. We're looking for approval to accept the $25,000 donation so it can be used for this purpose.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's good stuff.
That's good.
That's good stuff. Merrimack Valley Works, what is it?
Yeah, that's a good one. It means business.
Means business, that's what it is.
But this is so much even beyond, that's.
Yeah, it's gonna
more
go
beyond.
Yeah,
It's gonna
this is good.
We'll come back and give you an update.
Newburyport too.
Huh?
Goes all the way up to Newburyport.
That it does, goes all the way to Newburyport.
Okay,
In
next on the agenda, letter of
Yeah, and
support.
Methuen.
Are we good?
In Methuen.
Sorry.
In
Moving
Methuen.
on.
Just didn't want to leave Methuen off.
All right, letter of support for MassWorks grant.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Director of Community and Economic Development, Erica Forty, came to the board and outlined the Community Works grant for you, along with our engineering firm consultant Tech. Mr. Kafori is here today to talk a little bit about the letter of support he's seeking to be included in the grant application.
Mr. Chairman, members, this is a follow-up from our discussion, I believe, at a July board meeting regarding an application for a MassWorks grant for Main Street corridor improvements. That application is due this week. We're putting final touches on the actual application and gathering some letters of support, hopefully one from this board. I have had some conversation with some key members of the downtown community. There seems to be unanimous support and eagerness for this work to take place. I'm scheduled tomorrow to go before the Board of Directors of the Merchants Association to try and get a letter of support from them as well. And we are working closely with RCG, the owners, the principal owners and developers of the East-West Mill, which is a critical part of this application. It's one of the things they look for as a project of significance from the private sector for some economic and housing growth in the downtown district. And they're poised to do that next year, specifically on the East Mill side, on work that they already have approval for. This would be new construction. And sort of link it to this. This is a critical component to get access from Sutton Street through to the East-West Mill Complex. So we're happy about this, excited. It's a $3.3 million request. Hopefully we get all of that. Specifically, some traffic improvements. It would be pedestrian vehicle measures on Main Street, primarily from Sutton Street intersection, a new signal there, all the way down through into connecting to the work that the town's already approved on the High Street and Water Street into the complex. So we're building into that and connecting to it. We see some sidewalks, better ADA accessibility throughout the downtown. Again, some what the state calls complete streets concept. So this avenue would be utilized by pedestrians, bicyclists, vehicles. And the hope is also to calm the street down with some calming measures on Main Street so that it's not necessarily a cut through town. And we actually encourage people to stop and pull in and support the businesses down there.
So the polls and some, is that also part of it, or is it part of the study?
No, that's a very good point. Thank you. We are linking this with the town's intent on undergrounding the utilities. Again, from Sutton Street to the point on Water Street where they do go underground. You can actually stand there and see a nice contrast in how it makes that a much more, frankly, safer, certainly pleasant, appealing looking street. So that would be a town continuing its investment in the downtown. When you work on these projects, you realize the significant, you start adding up what the town's put in to this district, and you realize it's been a very significant investment. We're asking the state to partner with us on that. When you look at the senior center project coming up, certainly town hall expansion, some of the street work we've done, we're well into the teens and the millions.
So we'll be coming back in about a month with a recommendation for the undergrounding of the wires. The approval is from Merrimack on Main Street, down to the connection on Water Street and all the way back to Sutton, and to a certain extent up the side streets. We can give you a map of the specific area, but we're going to come back and seek approval from the board to proceed with the design and engineering on that project about a month or so.
The only one I did have concern about is doing a pedestrian alley on Main Street. I just don't see that there's enough room. Not pedestrian, bicycle. Yeah, we want our pedestrians safe, but I just don't see how that's going to work.
Yeah, there's certainly, the engineers have looked at the road itself and feel it absolutely supports, if not both sides, at least one side. And actually putting that in is a great way of calming the traffic on Main Street. And it seems to work in other downtowns where there is enough room. We won't sacrifice any parking. Our intent actually is to open up hopefully new areas for parking as well in the downtown. That's paramount, but they feel there's room for all of it. So when you get to the engineering stage, it'd be nice to see if that played out. And it'd be a great thing to actually connect the trails, and there's that project that we can do that through all the way down through East Mill into the downtown from like the high school parcel.
There's a separately approved CPC project for a trail that connects Main Street through the mills back across 125 along the high school. That's been funded but never engineered completely.
Oh, yes, connects it up.
Because today, if you walk alongside the McDonald's, you can't connect through as an example.
No, you can.
Well, you and I cannot, I'll speak to, I cannot connect through, but we know some people do. Right? So I think we'll see how the engineering plays out, and in the end, we're going to make sure that pedestrians are safe and that we slow traffic downwards to goal, and to make sure we don't lose parking.
Right, and people ride their bikes on Main Street anyway. They're either riding on the sidewalk or they're riding on the side of the road. This just kind of makes it a little more defined.
It's not driving at dawn.
We're going to lose some bicyclists.
Not parking.
But they're bicycling now. I see them all the time too, Dickie, particularly on the weekend.
Open the door once, both right in front seat.
It's true.
Because they do swing around that corner by Heavenly Donut, so having that line be farther out. I mean, John, they can take you out.
We need speed bumps there, slow them down.
Put that in the grant application.
You might know what
I'm actually supportive of speed bumps on Main Street too. So I would move that the Board of Selectmen provide a letter of support for the MassWorks grant application.
A motion and a second by Mr. Stewart. Any further discussion on this item?
Other than, so, we'll be drawing that for us.
It's already done. Yeah, I think I just need to
Sure,
sign it.
yeah, I was going to say it's done, right?
Yeah, we just need
You
to
just
sign
have
it.
to sign it.
All right, well, good luck with it, and,
Keep us
fingers
posted.
crossed. Yeah, I know. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got to our consent items. We'll now move into licensing. Do I have a motion?
Moving licensing?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're in licensing.
Okay, I will now open up the licensing, today's hearing for licensing. So we have first on our agenda, before us, a request of William M. Dwyer, manager of Tuscan Market, doing business as the Vineyard, for a change of location to 757 Turnpike Street, and a change of DBA to a Taste of the Vineyard. Is anybody here this evening to represent Mr. Dwyer? We have him, so if you both wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Sure. Good evening. Brian Vaughn of Smolak and Vaughn, representing Tuscan Market. This is my client, Bill Dwyer.
I'm Bill Dwyer. I've been the owner of Tuscan Market, Inc. At 554 Turnpike Street since December of 2003.
Okay.
So we've got the application in front of you. You're probably all familiar with Bill. He's been an operator, holds an existing license in town for a number of years. He's exactly the kind of operator we want probably in this town. He runs a very good business. He's very responsible. He knows the rules and he follows them. This application is not for a new license. It's to move his existing license down the street to the Stop and Shop location. While this is perhaps a new model for the town of North Andover, it's an existing and tested model in the Commonwealth. Stop and Shop itself is the license holder of 5 different licenses in the Commonwealth, and they also have another licensed location, or a leased location effectively, where there's another operator within one of their stores. But Stop and Shop isn't the only one who does this. It's also done by Costco's and BJ's and Star Market throughout the Commonwealth. How this effectively would work would be that there'd be a location within the existing Stop and Shop which would be built out and would be segregated from and totally separate from Stop and Shop's business. Effectively, Stop and Shop is merely a landlord, and Bill is the tenant, or Tuscan Market is the tenant, and it would operate his business as he always has in a leased location. The only involvement with Stop and Shop on this is that Stop and Shop would effectively be his landlord, and his premises, which he would use, would be housed inside the existing Stop and Shop. From a functionality standpoint, it's really no different than what's at Stop and Shop right now. If you go over and there's a Citizens Bank inside, you access the Citizens Bank from within the Stop and Shop, and that would be the same way for Bill's new location, assuming this were approved by the board.
Chairman, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
All right, so the bank's down the front, and where are you going to be?
I have a big map here if you'd like.
Great, because I'm having a hard time.
Really hard to get to the store.
Oh, so like right where all the books.
Right. It would kind of be where the cards are
tidbits
currently
and stuff.
located.
Yeah.
So it would be behind the.
Like the books and all of that.
Right.
On the other side of the
Really
register.
where the greeting cards are right now.
I may have to go to Stop and Shop more now then.
So if you can picture, this goes the other way.
Yeah.
So this is the front of Stop and Shop.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the entrance where most
Yeah.
people come in on this side, although there's another entrance here as well. There's the fruit and vegetable department, the butcher shop, the meat and fish. Down here is the bakery. This outline right here would be the new
That's great.
taste room.
I like it.
It's approximately 1,500 square feet. It has its own office. It has its own counter for the checkout, where we'd have 2 registers set up. And it has a movable security gate that's 8 feet high that rolls across the front and the back to create a secure space in the evenings when the business is closed. And it lines up with essentially the first 2 registers that the customers will run into when they're buying their food. They come around the corner here. They can make it a quick stop here to, very convenient to pick up their wine, their beer, or their liquor. We would put the product that we sell in a special logoed bag that we would then staple a receipt onto and put it into their cart. When they go through the Stop and Shop registers, that special bag doesn't even come out of their cart, so nobody at Stop and Shop touches it. So we have our own people, 2 people on staff here that are there to keep an eye on the product and to help the customers at all times. Just to give you an idea of what the bigger picture is, so this would be the actual store. This is the office that we talked about with the cash wrap. This is the gate that goes across. Here there's a reach-in cold wine and beer merchandiser. And then we've got the shelving that runs along the side and the beer coolers with 12 doors down in the back. This is an egress back here, but this is a foldable, very strong security gate that rolls across and is kept closed unless we're making deliveries or something through the back there. So that would be the way the store is designed. All of this would be brand new equipment. So the customers of Stop and Shop would have a brand shiny, brand new place to buy their beer, their wine, and their spirits while they're shopping here at Stop and Shop, making it a very convenient location for them.
What's the square footage?
It's approximately 15, this is 1,460 square feet that we show.
Oh, okay.
And the entire premises, which are being licensed, is approximately 1,675 square feet. There's also a mezzanine level in the back up here, so which would be storage, and that's also a secured area, which is going to be under lock, which Bill will have control
So the
of.
storage area would be 8-foot plywood, 3/4-inch plywood walls would be constructed with a wire ventilation space over the top. For security purposes, we would put in wireless motion detectors in both the sales floor and also up in the storage area, so that we would know if anybody had entered there during the off hours or when they're not supposed to be there. An alarm would go off, which would notify me via my cell phone. And at that point, we would get together with Don, the manager from Stop and Shop. This is Don Mondi right here. And we would then look at the videos in the Stop and Shop store that has multiple video cameras in place to find out what set off the motion detector. So that would be the way that we would secure these spaces.
I love it.
Thank you.
A couple of
That sways me when I'm just saying, but I love it.
I just have a couple of questions. So on the drawing, you've got 2 additional aisles that are new aisles. That's not your business, that's Stop and Shop.
Correct.
Putting in new aisles.
That's,
Replacing
the reason that
cars.
shows up on that design is, that's the stuff that left for the 1,460 square feet, that was moved over to those
Okay.
2 green lines that you see.
Right, and so when they pull permits to build out this part, that'll be part of the building plan that the building department will get, because they'll at the same time be doing the entire fit out to relocate.
And Stop and Shop, who knows how to construct stores and retail space, they will be in charge of all of the construction, build-out, and everything else. It's totally turnkey. They're doing all the work, they've done all the design. So
And had you thought about maybe securing it a little more, like in the front, like you've got that wide open space out into the store, I mean, just for potential loss, or we are a college town.
Well,
I don't like to admit that, I think that would happen, but.
It's not a wire. I have some pictures for you that I can hand out.
Yeah, I mean, it is a pretty sturdy security gate. It's really no different than if you
Well,
go...
I'm talking about during the hours that they're open, though, too.
Well, and the back will be locked, keep in mind, during the hours that they're open. So the back security gate will only be open when they're receiving deliveries.
Okay.
And effectively could be even deliveries from themselves, from the rear. So you're really only dealing with the front, and in the front is where your registers are located. So you're going to have probably at all times at least 2 employees on staff. If for any reason at any point in time you only had 1 employee, and if that employee needed for any reason to leave the store location, they'd have to make sure the area was clear of customers and, in fact, lock and secure the gate.
It's actually more, I see it as more secure than like Rite Aid on Sundays in the morning. Do you know what I'm saying? When you go to Rite Aid, it's not always
Can you clarify the hours of
locked up
operation?
the way it's
the plan for
supposed
this?
to be.
Yeah, it's
So-
on the first page of that handout that I just...
And I could speak a little bit more to that, Phil, as well. Just on the general application that we submitted, we have a much broader hours of operation than, in fact, what it will be open. But the reason for that is it's the existing hours under the Tuscan Market's existing license, which we're seeking to keep the same. It's, in fact, more hours than Stop and Shop is open. One of the things is we can never be open unless Stop and Shop is open. But Stop and Shop has in the past had longer hours. They could in the future have it. So for the licensing purposes, we're seeking a broader range of hours. But I think the handout that Bill provided is at least his initial projection of when he intends to
It aligns with the Stop and Shop hours.
Correct.
Closing hours, anyway.
Well, for example, on Sundays, even though Stop and Shop opens early, what time do you open on? 7 o'clock? We cannot open until 10. So we wouldn't open our doors up until 10 o'clock on Sunday.
And you're closing before they close, it looks like.
Yes, and that's just in the first 6 to 12 months. I mean, we're going to stay open for the hours that we think are appropriate, and then we're going to kind of get to know the ebb and flow of the Stop and Shop customers, and then we might revise our hours after that. But like we know that on Sunday evenings, by the time 8 o'clock rolls around, that's pretty much the end of the day. So we'd rather get our own employees.
You may improve that ebb and flow, too, with you in the middle of the store.
It would be great if we could do that.
And it is a little bit of a different business model, so there may be more customers that are already in Stop and Shop at those hours that may become Taste of the Vineyard customers. Bill won't really know until he has the history.
May I ask what the time frame, if approved?
If everything runs right, I think we could be open by February 1st.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we would stay where we are through the end of the year and get the holidays behind us, and then have about a month to build out the space, and then be open for Super Bowl Sunday.
Mm-hmm. We'll Stop and Shop, obviously, you'll stay open during construction.
Oh, of course, yes.
And of course, one of the big timelines is when it gets in and out of Boston, assuming approval at the local level.
Say one more time, I'm sorry.
One of the biggest impediments to timelines.
Oh,
ABCC.
ABCC, yeah.
Now, you had said that there is another model just like this in Stop and Shop where a business goes in and they lease from...
Yes. So I believe it's the Westboro location. And Scott Forbes from Stop and Shop could answer any operational questions based on their
It's
history.
different than Subway at Target,
Exactly.
Pizza Hut.
Well, I mean,
Or
it's...
our Dunkin' Donuts that we have in our stores, or
Right.
the Citizens Bank, or, it's offering that one-stop shopping convenience.
Right.
Well, it's a little different. It's a liquor store.
It's got boobs.
It's a little different.
It's not that different. 5 minutes up the road and it's the same difference.
What was your reason for, because you're awfully close to move to this location, did you have a specific reason as to why you'd want to move?
Well, it's strategic for us number one. And secondly, it's really for purely economic reasons. My lease expired recently, and I didn't decide to renew the lease. So this opportunity to get together and work strategically with Stop and Shop seemed important to me.
Did Stop and Shop ever consider their own entrance within the building from the outside? For example, just as an example, would be the recycling center, to take that over and turn that into a liquor store.
I can let Stop and Shop respond as well.
Yeah. We usually do that with our adjacencies. If we do own a plaza, then we have those satellite stores, but never in the aspect of having a separate entrance. Because some of the whole aspects of what we're trying to do here is the convenience for the customer. So when they're in there doing their grocery shopping, they can also, whether it's Dunkin' Donuts getting a coffee or getting a bottle of wine at a package store that's inside our store.
The model works pretty well in New Hampshire. The model.
Well, in fact, we spent about 8 hours in front of Stop and Shop this weekend asking for people to sign a petition to support this. And we heard that hundreds of times about New Hampshire. You can do that in New Hampshire. Why can't we do that in Massachusetts?
Right. And in that regard, I was going to wait, but it's probably appropriate time. The results of that survey and petition, I believe there were 255 North Andover residents who signed this and are in support of the petition. There were 161 other residents from other towns that shopped there as well. And I will leave these with yeah, we can actually leave you with the originals.
And the point was made that we do have Butcher Boy in town anyways, right?
Yeah, it's the same deal.
But it isn't, because Butcher Boy owns it. They own it and they own the spot, so it's not exactly the same. But
Well,
Kind of a smaller boutique place.
it is, but in this particular case as well, I think the way it lays out, it's also perhaps more secure in as much as Butcher Boy is kind of free reign as between
I'll give you that.
both properties. I mean, for that matter, it's really no different than where Bill currently is located, in as much as you have the meat shop as well as the wine shop operating in the same location, and it's two separate business operations under one roof.
Well, the other difference between this and Butcher Boy, too, is that there'll always be employees of A Taste of the Vineyard right there on the floor to help customers and to recommend wines and service them in a way that they maybe don't get in some of the other supermarket stores.
So you're going to have somebody at the registers and on the floor as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be there probably 50 hours a week myself, and I won't be running a register. I'll be helping people select their wines and that sort of thing.
I think as I recall, they have a spotless record as far as...
Yes, I believe so.
And you wouldn't be doing any type of wine tastings or anything?
Yeah, we may do some small tastings, but the big tastings that we do right now, we wouldn't be doing that. I can't see that. There's just not enough room in this floor to do it. But to have a vendor come in with maybe 2 or 3 wines and have people have a little taste and sample it with some cheeses from a Stop and Shop or something like that, I think unless it's a problem, that's something that we have in our plan to do.
So obviously you won't be selling your cheeses and things that
No, unfortunately.
you don't want us to work that in.
But I'll tell you, the cheese offer at Stop and Shop is unbelievable. They have 50 or 100 times more cheese than we've ever been able to offer.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's a great idea. I love it. I really like it.
Any other comments from the board? Anybody else in the audience with any questions or? No?
I move that the Board of Selectmen, acting as licensing commissioners, approve the request of William N. Dwyer, manager of Tuscan Market, Inc., for a change of location at 757 Turnpike Street and change of DBA to A Taste of the Vineyard.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Watson, seconded by Selectman Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
And I would know. I would prefer a separate location, a separate entrance. I'm not quite ready to jump into But I wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you very much.
And you have been a great corporate business in town.
Well, you've always been a great supporter of small business in town.
Well, that's
so.
partly it as well. A little concerned about the big box encroaching a little bit on the small business, but there is a separation, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate that you've done a good job, and you've had a clean record. It's just me, I prefer a separate entrance at the Stop and Shop location.
I understand.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn, Mr. Dwyer.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
consideration. I appreciate it.
Next on the agenda, we have requests for one-day all liquor licenses for events being held at Smolak Farms. My understanding is that under item B, or item 3, applicant 3, number 3, Commonwealth Financial Group, has actually withdrawn. I just want to follow up, has actually withdrawn their application. So right now we have 2 requests, the first being Jenny Wilson and Bob Crooker for a wedding reception on Saturday, October 1st, 2016, from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the tent. Is there anybody here from Smolak Farms or anybody affiliated with the event? I'm guessing that there is no one in the audience for that. So any comments from the board?
The Board of Selectmen asking the Licensing Commission has approved the request of Jenny Wilson, and Bob Crooker for a one-day all alcohol license for their wedding reception in a tent at Smolak Farms on October 1st from 4 to 10 p.m. This one I don't mind.
Watson, seconded by Selectman Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? It passes. Next item on the agenda is Stacy Mancanciello. How do you pronounce that? Mancanciello of Malden High School for a 25th high school reunion on Friday, October 7th, 2016, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. in the tent.
Chairman, I have a problem with the 11 p.m.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were
I'm
trying to
trying to
figure that out.
remember if we had at one point granted an extension for a couple of days. And
That is a long weekend.
That's what I thought it was.
But it's a 25th class reunion.
But did we grant the extension to the?
Entertainment
Somebody
license.
mentioned, we should go check on that. Somebody mentioned that one time.
You approved 2 exceptions to the entertainment license.
What were the dates for those?
Those are the dates. One's already happened and one's this
The
date.
7th.
No.
But at the time, that's separate from the liquor license.
Right.
What you approved was the extension of the time on the 2 holiday weekends for the entertainment license till 11 o'clock.
So prior to this meeting, what type of notice went out to residents, if any, regarding that particular night? We didn't.
We do not send notices
Not
to
for-
residents.
not for
We
that
have
type
public
of change.
meetings, so if they alter, we wouldn't know, quite frankly, where to begin and end in terms of who the right
Mhm.
folks to communicate with. So if someone gets an entertainment license, we never notify. It wouldn't matter if it was on Main Street or at Smolak Farms. We just post
It just
on.
is what it
It
is.
is what it is. But the liquor license is technically separate from the entertainment license.
So the liquor, they have to stop serving at 10, but they can play tunes till
Unless you
11?
vote this liquor license, which says they can do that at 11.
See,
So
this
this
was
is
my
a-
concern when we started talking about the different areas at Smolak, and there could be different events going on at different times. Ooh. Reunions always make me a little nervous, so I don't know. Yes. Yes.
What's the call?
I could see giving it.
25th?
Yeah.
25th.
They gotta be
That's-
43 years old.
Yeah.
I could see doing it till 10:30
It's the
and
number
half
on
an
the
hour
reunion.
before the entertainment ends. And I could see approving till 10:30, half an hour before so they stop serving liquor. Half an hour before. I mean, I was at an event this weekend at a very similar venue, and that's what they did. It was a farm, and they stopped, their policy is they stopped serving liquor 1/2 an hour before the entertainment license ends.
I suppose maybe because I shouldn't take it into account, but it's Malden, so I'm envisioning a long drive. I'm envisioning people with a long drive back to wherever they're coming from, which isn't necessarily Malden 25 years later, but...
Even so, though, they could be, there are plenty of opportunities to go out and be out even later on a Friday night in North Andover. And I mean, I don't know that, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
We did get one resident feedback, one resident provided feedback when the last 11 o'clock event
he did.
happened. Who indicated that I thought the board had moved in the direction of 10 o'clock. And I communicated that the board had voted 2 11 o'clock dates for the entertainment license.
So his communication wasn't specific to this request, it was as a result of the other
Yes.
event that went to
Yep.
11 o'clock.
Used to 10 o'clock, this is what, not we agreed to, but this is what
Yeah, we
was
did it
happening,
for-
and then I was surprised that this one went to 11.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we should ask Mr. Smolak to be a good neighbor and reach out in advance to his neighbors and let them know that this one, so we don't get those letters, or they don't start calling the police at 10:15 because it's still going on. I think, I wish somebody was here tonight from the.
I wish so too.
Ask
It's
them to do
odd
that.
that they're not here.
Nobody's concerned about it, so I don't see any problem.
What do you mean nobody's concerned?
There's nobody concerned about it.
But we didn't necessarily, I mean, these people don't necessarily know unless
Unless
they
they
proactively
read.
are reading the agenda every other week, right?
Mr. Loy's not here. Makes my day.
Well, yeah.
I would think it's appropriate, and I don't usually weigh in on these things, having the liquor and entertainment license end at the same time just seems to lean toward, even if it's 15 minutes, trying to end both of those things means it's not going to be 11. If you
No,
end
it's going to be
liquor-
11:30
If you're going
or
to liquor and
12.
entertainment at the same time, it's just sort of the way the world works, right? We couldn't imagine that the volume goes off and the bar shuts and everybody just
Right,
runs
at
to
11
their
o'clock,
cars.
they're having last call, or 5 minutes to 11, they're having last call, so, because we're giving them a liquor license till 11 o'clock, so it's going to
But is
continue
the
on.
last call,
I think it makes
because it
more
has to be
sense.
half an hour before?
Well, this is till 11 o'clock. So might be a suggestion that it be a little,
A buffer there.
a little bit of a buffer, I think.
I
that
think
would
30
make some
minutes
sense.
isn't unreasonable.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Because that gives everybody, 10:30, you get your last drink, and you got time to call your Uber.
There you
and
go.
Finish it up.
I wouldn't want to see trail at the 10:30.
Got plenty of
You gotta get
Ubers in
those.
LA.
So I hear
I rode in one
Lift
last
is on
week.
the rise.
I rode in one last week for the first time.
Not so bad.
Yeah,
The same guy around the rest of them, no?
okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the liquor license for the 25th High School reunion on October 7th to go from 6 PM to 10:30 PM, since we've already approved
I'll
the.
second that, that's a
motion made.
compromise.
Motion made by Selectman Valencourt, seconded by Selectman Stewart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? None. Hearing none, passes.
Motion to go out of licensing?
We have one
You
more.
got number four. Number four.
We have
Next page.
Deb Engel's 50th birthday party
Oh,
request.
yeah. Okay.
I don't think it's her 50th birthday, but, so Deb Engels has made a request for a 50th birthday party at Smollett Farms on October 15th, 2016, from 5 PM to 10 PM. This one to be held in the barn.
That's cool.
Um,
Roll the cows.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? None. That
Now
passes.
you move out of licensing.
Your motion,
Yeah, there it is.
So moved.
And then second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. You're out of licensing.
Okay. Any old business?
Negative.
Any new business?
Negative.
One thing we forgot about in the announcements, communication announcements, there was a nice article in the Tribune the other day regarding the new crosswalk up at Merrimack College, which I believe is going to be operational very soon. It's
Operational last Thursday.
It was operational last Thursday?
It's a little late on Thursday, but
Okay,
Yes.
so,
She did it, her ceremony, who was the official
who's
cross?
going to be the first person to cross?
I think
And then
that's
someone crossed
probably, I
outside
think
the
that.
crosswalk this
I think
morning
that
when I was
ship has
driving up
sailed.
114.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That ship is sailed, but I mean, I think that is a great example of a collaboration between the town, the state, and the school, and Royal Crest. I don't know what they.
And there is more to come. There'll be sidewalks on both sides of the street in the coming months, and ultimately the repaving of 114 from Elm Street up past the school.
And I've gotten 2 letters from concerned parents regarding this, so it was great to be able to point them to the work that was being done, and so I think that's.
Who's going to be responsible for maintaining the sidewalks? Either plowing, because I actually remember that was,
right?
Yep.
well, that was one of the concerns
I-
by adding sidewalks is
Yes.
who's going to,
Mhm.
keep them clear in the
As it
snow.
relates to snow removal,
Yeah.
we don't actively remove snow from sidewalks unless it's in a course to a school. And we will not be actively removing snow
No,
on
no,
sidewalks.
state highway.
As it relates to maintenance,
The big kids.
it's likely to be, both cases, it's the state roadway. In the Merrimack side, they'll look a little interesting because the college encroaches onto the highway, the public highway. So the stone wall along the Merrimack side, the sidewalk will actually appear on the Merrimack side of that wall, but that's still within the right-of-way of 114.
Mm-hmm.
So the sidewalk will be inside the wall, even though it's still in the state highway land. On our side, it'll be more consistent with what you'd expect, but we're not going to maintain those or plow those.
Mr. Chairman, under public comment, I've had some people call me on the sidewalk if you go into the schools. Who designed the width of those entranceways?
Which specific ones, Tom?
Off of
The ones in the
Mass
middle
Ave
school.
and off of Green Street. Because
The width of the
Putting in this
entrance
part-
and
Yeah.
I can't see snow and cars coexisting on that. It's very, very small.
Are we speaking about the current project?
The new, yeah.
All designed by an engineer consistent with state and federal standards. We don't design those. That funding is federal funding passed on to the state. They do the design. Actually, it's an independent design company that does it. State approves it, federal government approves it.
I'm just concerned that when it does snow, we're going to have a little bit, well, we'll find out.
It'll be tight.
You think?
Yeah. Well, the roadway now is because we're adding sidewalks, so that roadway.
Oh, that roadway's, yeah,
Okay,
okay.
it's gonna pinch
Coming
you.
in, it's a nice way, they made 45, but it's, you know.
So is it the sidewalk width you're talking about, or just the overall roadway?
The entrance way off of Mass Ave coming
Yeah.
in, it looks,
That goes on
You
Green
can
Street
use
towards
it, can't
River,
you?
right? That's what
Yeah.
we ran into the butter on Saturday.
Passing it in the wall.
Passing the
I'd
envelope.
be curious what it goes.
Yeah.
You don't get all the way back to the.
It'll be tight. Yeah, it's fine.
Just cross off the.
But
Yeah, no.
that's, we look at EPW though.
people are talking about it.
So you need to be, I understand what you're saying now. So the entranceway off of Mass Ave, we need to make sure we clear all the way to the curb to provide the proper entrance. Got it, understood.
But, you take a ride, so you can see how it's really, well, maybe we're used to such a wide open area, that's
Well,
why.
part of what they're trying to do is slow down well, you know what happens, you come down Mass Ave, you don't step on the brakes, you just pull, and this is gonna force this.
Certain times of the day, though, you can.
The first person goes up over the lawn.
No comment.
Not anymore, because now you have to go around,
Now you're gonna go
stop, and,
If you hit the
I
granite.
like it, I like
Hit the
the
granite
change.
curb, it'll cause you some pain.
yeah, I do like the
No, I do
change.
like the green curve.
The change is better, it's safer.
Okay, so since Don brought us into public comment,
You
do we
can
have
bring
any
us up.
public comment? Anybody here for public comment? Just make note of an editorial that was in the Townsman today that holds North Andover as a model community for fiscal responsibility. So, to the whole team, this was a nice editorial to read.
It certainly is.
I'll have to try to start reading the Andover Townsman more often.
Seriously, when we are held to such, it was great. I was excited that it came over today.
Okay, town manager's report. Ask the manager. Anybody have any questions for the manager?
Why is the roadway so
I'm just kidding.
Roundabout. Yes, we need that correction. It's roundabout. We're gonna affect the minutes, change the minutes, make sure they say roundabout.
Make sure they
when we approve.
reflect roundabout.
Want to make sure. We did have, I think it was Verizon who has come before us with those canisters on top of telephone poles.
Oh, yes.
They suggested that they had an interest to install, I believe, 3 of those in telephone poles near the common. So I suggested that Erica Ford meet with the folks
Common doesn't want things around the trees.
off Academy.
Oh, okay.
And so we got some feedback, which was the anticipated feedback, and we'll provide that feedback to Verizon. We don't think that that's a particularly great spot for them.
Isn't that a dead zone, though, kind of?
Yep.
Could
So
be.
why is it particularly not a good spot, then?
I just think there's a lot of areas. I struggle with what's happening with those canisters because it'll be interesting long-term what actually happens with them, because it's not the canister itself, which generally, it just looks like an extension of the pole.
Right.
It's the fact that they require infrastructure, fairly large boxes at the base of the pole to be the transformers for the...
right.
So if you could imagine someday...
But we'll put them downtown, I bet.
No, I would oppose them everywhere. If you can, this is my personal, I don't know where our standing is on that, but if you could imagine 30 to 50 of these items, so you have on telephone poles, which I'd rather just get rid of completely, and now all of a sudden you're looking at telephone poles that can't be removed, say they're downtown looking at Main Street. We're not going to agree with anything down there because we want to underground.
We want to
poles.
underground everything.
And all of a sudden they'd have to be taking these large boxes and putting them on the sidewalks and there. I understand that the industry's changing, I can get that, I just don't think we need more visible litter. Whatever
Do
the
you
right-
think eventually the canisters will be self-contained?
That'd be great.
Canisters, yeah.
I'm in with them if they can do that. If
Yeah.
they can put it all inside the can or make the boxes
Make
smaller.
the
I'm
box
supportive.
smaller or something.
Now, is there any type of revenue that's being generated? Do they pay taxes on this, property taxes, Verizon to the town? I mean, they're...
They don't pay any local taxes, meaning property taxes. The question would be, I answered no, and then I'm going to say with the caveat that from a personal property tax perspective, there was a long debate and some legal disputes around the requirement for utilities to pay personal property tax on their assets. It seems generally that they are paying personal property tax, but it's not. It's
this
not
isn't
the
a
kind of
utility. This is a
meaningful-
cell phone, right? And
Well,
this
that's a utility.
But not in the same way, like, for instance, they pay taxes or develop host community agreements for towers they erect if it's on public property.
No, it's not that
right?
kind of revenue. Nowhere would match putting in a cell tower. A cell tower generates.
but-
I agree with your point on
Yeah.
this, though. We've talked about that we tried to get it to pay towards undergrounding the old center, and it would...
It just seems like it's quite the enhancement. I mean, it's going to make Verizon a far more appealing. It's going to make them a stronger business because they're doing it and they're filling in gaps that other cell carriers don't have the opportunity to. And it's not just like, I mean, they're taking advantage of an opportunity to enhance their company.
Yeah.
Any other business, we would expect them to pay additional taxes or revenue. And I feel like it's a little bit unfortunate that we're not pursuing this. I'd like to pursue this more aggressively with them because I mean, again, we're going to see
I'm
it.
the business model. I'm just caught up in the fact that whether it's street signs or anything else we do, the visual aesthetic, this is a beautiful community. So everything we add to a pole, every pole we have, unless it's decorative,
It's true.
it detracts. I mean, look at the difference. I think it was in one of the papers after your last meeting. It showed what the lower half of Main Street would look like without the utility poles.
Yeah.
Just that sort of image was impressive. Look at the work that Ray and the community did around the undergrounding around the common. I mean, people comment on that in and out of the community all the time.
It's beautiful.
And all of a sudden you take the poles, none of them particularly straight, half of them have another pole next to it, and all of a sudden you're going to add something to the top, something to the
You're
base.
right.
No, it's just like the crosswalk that's coming, then the signs for the crosswalk, and then up on the other side, and then on the other. It's just overkill.
So I
I
think
agree with you.
I never thought about the business model perspective. They seem to have a competitive advantage because they own the poles. That's an interesting perspective as well. It just seems like one 35 to 60 foot monopole, the one that sits up at Osgood Hill as an example, does not stand out. It's not like it gets lost, and yet it provides cell service. We generate revenue. There's co-locators on that pole. And if you told me there were several more of those isolated in places that weren't in sort of in the line of where you look, what's so bad about that? Except I would say that that's probably a lot more expensive to install, maintain, and pay us a fee than is these items on top. But they get up and put them on and leave, and we get to look at them, and I don't think that's ideal. It's my public service announcement for the day.
So is there an action before us?
No, I think we continue to say that we just don't think that they're appropriate.
Like their poles.
I don't like the big things at the bottom.
I don't like their poles.
And they have to be approved by us before they could move forward?
Well, that's there's a standing debate of whether that's the case. No.
Because I thought they just had to go before the planning.
Well, the planning board has asked our opinion, and the board's acted that opinion. in the
But at
past.
the end of the day, don't they have the right to do it if they
Well, I
so
think
choose?
that's
the next step.
That's a debate that's
They have
ongoing.
the right to do it because it is adding more to the goal.
Right. I'm not well versed enough in the planning board aspect of
In the
that.
past, I think the zoning and the planning board had saying more antennas going up on an existing pole
Okay.
and such.
Yeah, this
More than planning board.
Well, the zoning board, we did too.
they approved these three, or
And the
three.
two, I believe they approved, and the third was on the last agenda.
They just think 3 is going to become 30.
Well, they said
So
when they
they've
came
already
before us, they were
approved it.
looking at putting up to 36,
On
right? If I
Academy,
remember, I mean,
right?
this was last January.
Yeah, we were sort of cold a little bit. Yeah.
Well, but we even brought it up, like how, again, that this isn't even a new topic about what type of revenue is generated by this, because again, any other business we would expect, I mean, we would expect them to have to pay. I mean, and
Well, there's no fee. There's no existing fee in the books that would require them to pay to put something on their own pole. There's no fee. I mean, in the case of putting up a cell tower pole in a community, we're typically putting on a public property, and therefore, in order to locate, we're charging them, in essence, a lease fee. But on their own property.
2 have already been approved, so it's a done deal.
But they've been approved, but it doesn't mean that can't we continue to pursue whether or not they pay? Like, for instance,
I see.
they're enhancing the property. I mean, are the building permit fees they've had to pull, right, in order to
I don't even know if we've seen that they're subject to building permit fees, because most utilities are not, again, this is one of these funny areas. They're under,
Yeah.
when you put in a
So we're getting
transformer to
nothing from
support a
them.
pole, they don't pull a building permit.
even though it's a wireless carrier?
They're under DPUs.
They do multiple
That's where
things.
the regulations are, and they own the pole already.
So does that mean that they don't have to pull building permits when they erect poles?
Well,
in general, when they erect their own towers?
Selectmen.
A pole.
If they're installing a pole, but they don't
If they're
give us a
installing it.
building permit to install a telephone pole.
No, they just get your permission to install a pole, but if they want to do anything to the pole, they just do whatever they want. It's their pole.
I don't know any place that has deemed a pole a structure under the building code, but there's probably some somewhere, but that's not common, in my experience. It's not common. I've never seen it, actually.
So this is evolving, and we need to
It's evolving,
watch how
yeah.
it evolves.
I just think, and this is up to the board, I mean, this is more of a personal thing. I just
Right, I
think
agree
that
with you. I
aesthetically
don't like it
represents what we'd like to be.
So now, if Sprint wants to do it, or
They don't own the
AT&T,
poles.
but they don't have the ability though either to even install poles, right?
Capitalism, my
No.
friend.
No,
They need to go buy some poles.
They could go to Verizon and
Oh, they can
lease
go to
space.
Verizon and make
But
space.
there's no ability for them to install poles, but Verizon gets to because they're the public utility, because they provide not just cellular service. The reason they have these poles in the first place is not because they're a cellular carrier, right? It's because they own
Landline.
As Don referred to
landline.
them, telephone company, when there was such a thing, they were one of them. The poles are,
Commonly co-own the pole with.
the pole is either National Grid or technically, it should be one or the other, although it's confusion on that too. Half the pole, some percentage of the poles are owned by N-Grid, and some percentage of the poles are owned by Verizon in every community. Or if it's not N-Grid, whatever.
But if you go to any pole, they probably have 2 numbers on them. They have a telephone company number and a electricity number, so
Unless you're in,
both companies can share the pole.
unless you're in a community that has its own power facility,
Right.
then they would own the poles. We don't.
Well,
So it's an area of confusion, quite frankly, right now, and I think one that, in the end, it makes sense probably from Verizon, from a business model perspective, but that doesn't mean that we necessarily have to agree.
Are we seeking clarification from the state on how, I mean, other than just us talking about it?
It wouldn't be a state thing. I think it's been out there, and there's been no clarity relative to
it's evolving.
state isn't going to provide guidance on that.
Time will tell.
It probably would require legislation that they be licensed.
I was just going to say, it's going to require legislation to change what's happening, so
That's been my guess. There is nothing in the books that would clearly identify
they're going to do it.
because it's evolving technology, right?
And in
They don't
3
know how to
years, they'll
They
have
don't know how to control the.
transformerless canisters or something.
That's okay. We'll take transformers, whatever that you just said. We'll take those. Transformerless.
Transformerless canisters.
Under communication, we all got a call for today, was on our phones right around communication time, was that there's going to be some spraying to control mosquitoes, as we typically do as we roll into the beginning of school. So that there was a message that went out today to everybody, and there's been some emails as well to define specifically when and where. So the message on your phone is, if you get those on your cell phones, is that.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Job posting log, everything moving along.
It's quite quiet. Quiet's good. We like the summer.
Next meeting is Monday, September 12th. I'll hear a motion to adjourn, so moved. We have a second? All in favor?
I want the fun to end. No, I'm just kidding.
We get
All right, we are adjourned.